Good afternoon. Today is Monday, the 27th of April, 2026, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. Delighted to have Ben Rubin with me in the studio.
Always a pleasure, Brian.
Well, thank you, Ben. Now, glorious day here in Plymouth, and I think it's worth talking about because that always boosts the mood. And of course, we've had a generally lovely weekend, people out and about, but also protests. So protests in RAF Fairford or outside the base, RAF Fairford, but also digital ID coming under scrutiny from members of the public, and a number of events challenging that on UK streets. Now, we've got a very busy news programme today, a lot happening. Obviously, we need to give mention to events, assassination attempt or something around Trump. We've also got a very good report about the protests at RAF Fairford. We're going to be having a look at how do we describe it, Ben? The deep state operating in this country?
Yes, deep state and philanthropists.
Yeah.
Those charitable givers, those lovely rich people.
A control network. And one of the things that we're going to keep stressing to our audience is the fact that if you think you're living in a democracy, absolutely not. This is something far deeper, and people need to understand how these networks work if we are to challenge what's happening. We're going to be having a look at dual citizenship, particularly in relation to one man having his UK citizenship taken away from him. We're also going to be having a look at actions by Palantir. And Ben, you've got a segment, Freud's House.
Absolutely, yes. We're going to be looking at Matthew Freud's digs in Oxfordshire and what's going on up there, or certainly was last week anyway.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, let's get started with just a little, I think it's called a reel. Let's just have a little look at the chaos at the recent event where shots were fired and Trump was evacuated along with senior members of his team. Well, there we are. That's probably all it's worth. But essentially, shots were fired in the foyer of the venue. And of course, the protection team then came in with all the heavyweight equipment, probably frightening people in the main room more than hearing the shots outside the room. Trump and his senior team were then hustled out of the room to safety. Meanwhile, as some of the social media clips show from individuals who were present at that event, some people took the time to stay behind in order to ensure they had their bottles of wine with them when they left the room.
First things first.
First things first.
It's almost like watching a film, Brian.
Well, a lot of people very sceptical about what is supposed to have happened. And of course, this is one of the key problems in this day and age, is that it's getting increasingly difficult to tell fact and fiction apart. But let's have a listen to what Trump had to say about the events.
Mr. President, do you know if you were the target of the gunman?
I don't know. It sounded to me, I read a manifesto. He's radicalized. He was a Christian, a believer, and then he became an anti-Christian, and he had a lot of change. He's been going through a lot based on what he wrote. His brother complained about him, and I think reported him to the police.
How worried were you that there were going to be injuries?
I wasn't worried. I understand life. We live in a crazy world.
Well, at least he told the truth at the end, Ben. We live in a crazy world. Yes, Mr. Trump, largely created by you over the last few months. But there we are. What is the truth of the matter? Excuse me. We don't know. But I did feel that there was quite a slight dig put towards the Christian side of life. Was this trying to say, well, of course, this was a right-wing Christian extremist, even though he's now turned against his own religion? We simply don't know. But to focus on the chaos of Trump's world, we have to come to RAF Fairford, because, of course, it's through this base that American aircraft and air supplies are being channeled out to the Middle East. UK itself, via that base, has become the aircraft carrier for the Middle East. But let's hear what some of the protesters on the ground had to say about the base itself. And a huge thank you to the UK column viewer who sent us in this little clip. We'll watch it, and then we'll be hearing from Charles Mallet, who was also present on the ground at the protests outside RAF Fairford. But first of all, the clip about the use of the base.
But the heavy bombers come here. They're not here all the time. What you have based here at the moment are 2 or 3 U-2 intelligence planes. They fly out every day and go along the Eastern European border from the Black Sea right up to the Barents Sea. So they're here and there, but these other bombers come in now and again. Now they're here, and they've been here for a couple of months. What you have when you get there, you might be able to see the tails, because they'll be the far end of the airfield from where you are. But there's 8 B-52 bombers, there's 15 B-1 bombers. So these are bombers that are doing the bombing, 2,000-pound bombs. And they've actually probably emptied the bomb base, which is at Welford near Newbury, and they're flying in ordnance from the American bases in Europe. So they're stocking up. They're practicing now, ready for if the ceasefire stops. They're flying out every day, bumps and starts, and practicing. And the refueling planes at Mildenhall are doing the same. So they're getting ready to start again. So when you get to the airfield, which will be some time now, good luck on the walk, what you'll see from the runway side, you'll see a double hangar across the way. And that double hangar is specifically built, it's the only one in Europe, and that's for the B-2 stealth bomber.
Well, Ben, I thought that little clip was very, very important because, yes, we've got a demonstration on, but somebody clearly very aware of the facts, sitting and talking people through the importance of the base and really why they needed to be there protesting, because this is where all the bombs and the munitions are going through. And of course, Keir Starmer, despite his lies that he's not, is actually assisting the attack on Iran and the general killing in the Middle East. There's no question of this. Let's have a listen to Charles Mallet, who was also on the ground. A really excellent report here from Charles. Let's hear what he had to say.
Despite the fact that RAF Fairford plays a significant part as a hub for the United States visiting forces in their campaign with Israel against Iran, Fairford itself has been host to very little protest over the last couple of months, and it was therefore significant that the Stop the War Coalition planned activity for Saturday the 25th of April was reckoned to be attracting several thousand protesters, and accordingly Gloucestershire Police and the Fairford Town Council had come up with a road closure and a protest management plan. I went along to Fairford and indeed to RAF Fairford to see exactly what it was that was going to unfold on the ground. Tell me a little bit about what it is that you've come here to do today and what you think is going to happen.
We've come to protest the use of British bases to bomb Iran and to back up what we see as internationally illegal wars by the Israeli government, very unfortunately as well. We feel that the British government is being complicit by allowing the use of these bases, even if they claim that we're not supporting the American war on Iran.
The anticipation and expectation of the level of protest today has varied somewhat. The Morning Star reporting an estimation of thousands of people gathering. Now, it's about 1:30 on Saturday, the 25th of April. As you can see in the frame now, there are police, one might say, bimbling towards the main gate. This is the Hawkett area of Fairford, which leads up the hill and over down past the accommodation, the airbase accommodation, to the main gate. And as I walk along here, I can hear an increasing amount of noise. It's rather hard to determine exactly how many people that may be coming from, but there are also an increasing number of police vehicles. What was significant to note, and indeed in stark contrast to one of the protests that took place at the main gate in early March, was that there was no counter-demonstration, which has become so much a feature of modern protest. And it was also significant to note that of all those I did speak to, whether they be demonstrators themselves or local residents, the feeling was one of great calmness and respect. And the protesters especially were extremely articulate and well informed with regard to the nature of the particular protest that they were taking part in.
The reason this all happening because America wants to expand or keep his power over the Middle East or all over the world, because they don't want to fall, they don't want to come down.
How do you see Israel's part in all of this?
Because the plan, as I said, is domination of America and then the Middle East, because Israel wants to be the power of the Middle East.
To those people who say that reports of tens of thousands of Iranians killed by the Iranian regime, do you believe those figures to be accurate at all?
The figures are not accurate. The figure, okay, they've been killed over 3,000 people, they died. But why? Trump said he sent weapons, lots of weapons, to Kurds. They sent their agents in the middle of these protesters, and they were shooting the Iranian army. So they made sure the Iranian army will shoot back. So when they shoot back, one bullet can kill 3 people, 2 people, or wound 5 people, because the bullet will pass. It's not like a human body, it's not like a metal.
Here we are in Gloucestershire and not Iran. How do you know, or how is it that you believe you know the truth when you're in the United Kingdom and not in Iran?
Because we have people going and come back, they're troubling, and not just, don't worry about the news, we have people, although there's no plane, but they go by the land to Turkey and come back. They will tell us all these, plus the Iranian media. We have direct contact. This killing on the street, because they were trying to do the uprising, people was managed, handled by Mossad and America.
I'm with Sandy Steele, the UK column viewer, who's just collared me as we progress round towards the crash gate at Welford. Sandy, tell me a bit about why you're here.
Well, the main reason, I suppose, is that I live at the other end of the runway. It's a 4-mile runway. I came on the local bus.
The Israel Defence Forces claim that Iran can strike targets within a 4,000-mile radius. Fairford sits about 3,800 kilometres. Sorry, I think I said miles. Fairford sits at about 3,800 from northwest Iran. What's your take on that?
I think the Iranians, many blessings to them, have got their hands full probably, and we're likely not to be a target. And also, I noticed their hardware and software is very accurate. So I dare say they'll hit what they mean to hit, and not a neighbouring village. I think we're more likely to get blown up by the bomb depot that you went and saw when you first went round Fairford. It is very nice to get out and actually meet people who are prepared to make an effort for peace. And we've really got to get every village and every parish in this country much more politically active. Councillors and MPs and bureaucrats, the senior bureaucrats, are obviously culpable,
It's a B-1 bomber heading over as though we'd arranged it. Have you been aware of any mainstream media coverage of the event today?
Absolutely not, no. There is an independent photographer here. He might get some pictures in the local Wilton Gloss Standard, but that's controlled by a global cartel, so the Wilton Gloss Standard editor cannot really tell the truth. He's going to be disciplined if he does.
Well,
and that's what's brilliant about UK Column, of course, is that it's very clear over a number of years that you aren't controlled by big money.
Whilst it would be unfair to describe those in attendance as having entirely homogenous views, they were at least broadly overlapping, and the only people I encountered with a different take on proceedings were a group of plane spotters who were at the end of the runway, and this is what they had to say about what they saw.
B-52s took off earlier, but B-1s put up a good show. Enjoyed it. What we came up here for.
They fascinate me. I love them. I don't love what they do. I think it's unfortunate what's going on in the world, and but I do believe Trump's intentions are right. I said, if he's not going to do it, who else is going to do it? I know what we know what goes on with these planes, what they're here and what they're trained to do, and obviously there's people suffering for what happens with it. But something has to be done. We can't just let it happen.
The line from the Prime Minister here and the government is that we're not going to be drawn into the wider war, and yet we've deployed a destroyer, we've deployed mine hunters, we've got Typhoons up, all the rest of it. What if, I mean, you've got a young man standing here with you, if there were to be young men drawn into action, perhaps... Just put the microphone over to you. Say that again.
I'd be the first person to put my hand up and go and defend the country. Of course I would. Straight away.
This was a calm yet impassioned event, and one that went off without incident either from counter-protesters or indeed any police overreach, but the fact remains that it's unlikely that any more than 300 people were in attendance, which begs the wider question, what will it take for the British public to engage on this particular issue? This is Charles Mallet on the ground at RAF Fairford for UK Column.
Well, I think an excellent report from Charles, and fascinating that you had so many different views there at those protests. But the key point being, clearly people don't understand the sheer scale of the destruction and the killing as a result of the operation of this base. And until people do understand that, possibly until they're affected in the same way, we are not going to have a significant pushback about what is happening here. But of course, the minimum that Keir Starmer could do is actually tell the truth that he's involved in the war. He's facilitating it by providing this base for the Americans. And if he was to close it, America would be significantly hampered in trying to do what it's doing at the moment in the Middle East. And indeed, so would Israel. A lot more to discuss on that, which we'll get into in UK Column Extra for our members after the news today. But before we close on RAF Fairford, there were reports, and video footage of a fire that took place at the base. Now, I believe that was the early hours of Sunday morning, although the exact time seems a little bit uncertain. We've got a very, very brief video clip here showing what that fire looked like. Well, there we are. The cause of the fire, we don't know. I understand nobody was hurt, but it is rather interesting that immediately after demonstrations at the base, something has happened. But we'll see whether we can get more information on that in due course. Ben, over to you. Many people looking outside the country, they're concerned about what's happening overseas, the geopolitical aspect. You've always been saying to people, focus on what's happening in UK.
Focus on what's happening in UK. what's being done to UK, but also UK as an international hub for what's happening in pretty much every country on earth, actually, because we're being manipulated. The system is being reshaped and transformed by what they call change makers, disruptors, people working behind the scenes, funded by the richest families and individuals that have ever lived in the whole of human history, many of them linked into the networks around Jeffrey Epstein, who are working day and night to transform and reshape the global political, cultural, economic apparatus, completely unelected, even getting linked into the top levels of Freemasonry here in the UK and internationally, and of course into the British royal family. They were all meeting, or some of them at least, were meeting in Oxford last week at this event. This is the Skoll World Forum. Lots of shiny, happy people, global leaders, charitable giving, and we'll come back to the Skoll World Forum in a moment because I'm going to give you some important context for it and the people and programs that I've just described. I'm going to go straight to the Epstein releases, and release from 28th of August 2011, an email between these two gentlemen, Jeffrey there on the left-hand side, alongside Jez Staley, who was his personal banker, also the chief executive of private banking at JP Morgan, the world's biggest bank at the time. And in the email, which we'll provide a link to, you can go and read the whole thing from the Justice Department website. They were talking about what they call donor-advised funds, where you could tie it initially to just the Gates program, minimum gift, 100 million. Excuse the typos, by the way, they're his, not mine. And importantly, the tension in this donor advised fund is making money from a charitable organization. Therefore, the money-making parts need to be arm's length.
And let's just emphasize that, Ben, they need to be at arm's length in case the ordinary person in the street came to understand that these people are callously manipulating charities to make profit.
Yeah, privatization of charitable giving. It's despicable, actually, what they've developed. And Epstein was working with Bill Gates at the Gates Foundation at the time, more directly with his chief scientific advisor, but Bill Gates was aware of what was going on. The specific use case they were talking about was the acquisition of vaccines, but then the idea being to extend that out to other purposes. This is the model that has become impact investing. So we've talked about quite a bit previously, and will continue to do so because there is a concerted effort at the moment to transform the whole global economic system into an impact system. Yeah? When we say transform global economy, this is what we mean. They're completely reshaping things in a completely unprecedented manner. And at the time that Epstein wrote that email describing the work he was doing with Bill Gates, Gates was in the process of launching another organization alongside Warren Buffett, which was this is the Giving Pledge, which describes itself as a promise by the world's wealthiest philanthropists to give the majority of their wealth to charitable causes in their lifetime or their wills. It is a global community which has global impacts. As you can see there, it says founded by Warren Buffett, Melinda French Gates and Bill Gates. It launched in 2010, and it's designed to address what they call the world's most urgent issues. And more than 250 of the world's wealthiest supposed philanthropists from 30 countries have made that possible. So you've got Elon Musk has signed it, Mike Bloomberg has signed it, David Rubin has signed it. I mean, it's an extraordinary list of the most wealthy, most powerful people on earth. Two people in particular who were signatories that we're going to focus on for today's report are these two gentlemen. So this is Jeff Skoll and Pierre Omidyar, who were the co-founders of eBay. So they were two of the earliest .com billionaires. Jeff Skoll founded the Skoll World Forum, which is what I just mentioned a moment ago, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And Pierre Omidyar has founded and continues to run something called the Omidyar Network, as well as various other related organizations, through which he's been described as potentially becoming the new George Soros, right? So this is the kind of world that we're in. And I've got a very short clip here of Pierre Omidyar describing what impact investing means to him and the benefits of that system to private capital.
There are really interesting synergies that can happen when you use nonprofit grant making to support infrastructure and support the development of a market. that is a nascent, sort of a pre-scale market. Use nonprofit capital to support that, and then you also have the for-profit capital to help seed some of those initial investments, at the beginning of these markets to really help them scale.
So use charitable giving to create a market that you can then trade in and extract enormous profits from. You see how that works?
I do, Ben, and credit to your good self, because you are the one who's been pointing this out. Cynical, callous, vicious, and of course the people it really hurts are people at the bottom of the pile who need help with their lives or food or whatever it is. So this is really pernicious stuff.
It is, yeah. It's ultimately about maintaining the existing power structure, the existing global pyramid. So just one example of how that might play out for Pierre Omidyar. He has, through his Illuminate Foundation, given significant amount of money to Full Fact, the fact-checking service, over the past few years. So in 2023, it was just over £160,000, given a total of over £1 million over the preceding 3 to 4 years. And essentially, this is about charitable giving, supposedly to combat disinformation, but which is actually about, well, first of all, propping up the existing power structure, but then also creating a marketplace for AI-driven censorship and the digital platforms that people like Pierre Omidyar and his network build.
So this is a complete change, reframing of society where these people will have total control. There's no ifs or buts in this.
Yes.
This is where they're going. And of course, none of this is reported by the BBC or other key media sites.
No.
Indeed, there's many alternative media sites that are still not gripping this aspect. So what is happening here is the new structure being built. It's operating inside UK, but it's operating in other Western countries as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, UK is absolutely a hub for this, and Oxford is certainly a hub as well. So let's go back to the Skoll World Forum and listen to Jeff Skoll and some of his associates describing what that event is actually all about.
There's the old saying, it just takes one empowered individual with a good idea to change the world. If you take a group of those empowered individuals and put them together, they will come up with things that improve the world even more.
The Skoll World Forum is a place for social innovators to come together, to learn from each other, to be inspired.
What started out as a little bit of a mini Woodstock has become this incredible event that's held every year where we bring together change leaders from around the world.
An incredibly diverse group of people who are on a journey working on some of the most pressing problems in the world. The nonprofit leaders working on these critical issues.
There are other very exciting things.
Corporate leaders, government leaders, the philanthropy sector, academics, journalists, opinion writers, producers who want to learn about the issues, who might want to cover these stories.
Every single one of us have a responsibility making the world a better place, especially when it comes to business.
This is the right idea at the right time. The traditional notions of how charity should work, I think, are just outdated.
Don't really know what to say. Then I watched that video with sheer horror, the arrogance of these people saying that you just come forward and you're going to change the world. No, they're going to change the world, and they can do it with their power base and the amount of money. And then you see the opulence of the setting in which they bring people. Why do they do that? Because, of course, people drawn into that environment instantly become putty in their hands, leading the good life. So this is really, really where people should be focusing on. The mere idea that we've got a democracy running in UK is over, it's gone. And for people to understand what's happening, whether it's regionalisation or it's any other form of collapse of our heritage and our infrastructure, this is what's driving it. It's so important that we help people to see what is happening and who's doing it. But sickening, I think, Ben, is the word.
Absolutely, yeah. With the full institutional backing of Oxford University. So this is hosted in Oxford University, where they're bringing together social innovators, social entrepreneurs. It's a new term that gets used a lot, which we'll come back to in a moment. The idea that this is a mini Woodstock. It's a little bit of fun and celebration with change leaders from around the world. Yeah, so the terminology is consistent, change leaders, change makers, and it's this transformation of charity which sits at the heart of it, right? So it's just one example that's come up from the event that happened last week. So you can see here, this is the Food for Education founder and CEO, Wawira Najiru. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And this organization ensures that 620,000 children that her organisation feeds daily receive delicious hot meals that they recognise from their cultures. This is across Africa. And by employing mobile money tech, Food for Education enables parents to contribute small amounts to the cost of feeding their children, creating a sense of shared responsibility, which rather does beg the question, aren't the parents already responsible for feeding their own children? So why is this organisation intervening in that? So there's already a kind of destabilizing force coming in. But then this is built on mobile money technology, right? So we're going to do something that's supposedly charitable, but it's all built on a digital payments platform that will no doubt meet the specifications of the Bank of International Settlements as a precursor to CBDC. The CBDC, which itself was designed by Jeffrey Epstein and his networks as a way of enforcing compliance with the supposed charitable, social and environmental objectives that they're pursuing. Yeah, extraordinary.
Ben, let's just remind people of our report a few days ago talking about banks in India crowing that they'd been able to draw in the number of very poor people into the banking system. And the figure, if I remember correctly, was that it'd been taken from sort of 20% to 80%. And this was regarded as major progress. So people who've got very, very little money, the important thing is not to feed them, help them develop businesses, their farms. It's to draw them into the banking industry. And there's only one reason for that. Everybody is to be controlled with the system, no matter how rich or poor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so open them up to financial services so they can now borrow money from you. And obviously that will be delivered with interest. But then on the flip side of it, you can now tax them as well. Yeah, so they become formalized in terms of the global banking system, right? This is what a lot of these tools are about. Now, let's hear it now from another organization. The organization that actually coined the term change makers, who were at the Skull World Forum last week. This is a shocker.
Hi, everyone. We're at the Skull World Forum at our wonderful Ashoka Fellows breakfast with some amazing fellows from all over the world. And we can't wait to introduce you to them.
I think we need to be talking more about bringing innovators, social entrepreneurs within certain sectors together so that, they can have a stronger voice as one.
Education is not only a school matter. Education is a family matter, it's a community matter, it's companies matter, it's everyone's matter. And I'm seeing a society where everybody knows the role that they have to play in educating the younger generation.
I think a lot of people feel worried about the situation we find ourselves in with war and populism and authoritarianism. But I think what we all need to talk more about is that we have all the solutions and we absolutely could create a really sustainable, just economy and society.
We're all missing the foundational layer that moves people to participate in that, which is how the stories that we tell, the experiences that we have. And I think grounding us in our arts and our culture will create a society that really wants to be participatory and engage with each other.
Very happy people in setting up lots of opulence again, obviously. And do I think all of them are bad people? No, I don't. No. I would imagine that probably the majority of them have been drawn into this and they think they're doing something for the benefit of mankind, but in fact, they're being manipulated. They are the puppets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And the lady there was talking about the rise of war and populism and authoritarianism. What she doesn't realise is the people behind the walls are also behind the thing that she's involved in. So the war is about breaking down the existing structure, and what she's involved in is building up a new structure. And Ashoka is a fascinating organisation. So we've talked about the Skull World Forum. That was founded in 2004. Ashoka has been around since 1981. And as I said, it actually coined the term change maker. And on their homepage for the UK outpost of Ashoka, they talk about envisaging an everyone a change maker world trademark. So they've TM'd that. They think that that's their term. And who's behind Ashoka? They partner with a huge number of organisations in order to accelerate change. And I'll just pick out 3 that jumped out at me off this partner page. And this is just in the UK, by the way, but as I said, a very important area for them. So Rothschild immediately jumps out at me. So it's Rothschild & Co.'s logo. Freud's, Matthew Freud's firm, who run the UN Global Goals Program. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later. And then this org, which I'd never heard of before, which is the Edge Foundation. And if we go into their website and find out a little bit about them, we can see that it is supposedly an independent, politically impartial foundation inspiring the education system to give all young people the knowledge, skills and behaviours to flourish as the transformation of education, the war for young minds, and its royal patron is His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, who can also be seen in this picture. There you go. He's there. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's a very interesting film for people who've seen it. And of course, it's a celebration of Freemasonry, but that is as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was the United Grand Lodge of England 300th anniversary in 2017 at the Royal Albert Hall. And there you can see the HRH, the Duke of Kent, in his full regalia as the Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England, which shows that these change-making networks are actually directly linked into Freemasonry and into the royal family as well.
And thank you very much for that. A lot more to say on that, and we'll deal with more of that particular issue in UK column extra at the end of the news. But before we move into our adverts, let's just have a look at on the subject of China. Very emotive for lots of people at the moment. China seems to be more important than other areas in some people's minds. I just want to focus on something very simple on the surface, and that is electric cars. And this particular Chinese maker, BYD. Now, they are now number 1 in the world. Massive factory, fully utilizing robots. Quite impressive when you see it on video. But let's just have a little look at this particular report on this Chinese car manufacturer, and then we'll move on to what really wasn't emphasized.
This is a story about changes that are too big to ignore. For many years, the global car market has been dominated by the same small group, countries like Japan, Germany, and the United States, but no longer. In the span of 5 years, China leapfrogged the largest automakers in the world, going from 6th place to 1st. It now exports more vehicles than the United States and Japan combined. And no company tells that story better than electric car maker BYD. Bloomberg's Tom McKenzie reports from Paris.
At an opera house just north of the Champs-Élysées, a lavish debut, even for Paris. The star of the show, not a performer, but a product. This car is the latest creation of BYD, a Shenzhen-based electric vehicle maker that's taking the world by storm. Today, it's China's biggest car company by sales.
I want to be the best valuable brand in the auto industry.
But it wasn't so long ago that other automakers literally laughed them off. This was Tesla's Elon Musk here on Bloomberg back in 2011.
There's competitors now ramping up, and as you're familiar with, BYD, which is also on the West Coast, I think they're ramping up production of their electric vehicles. Warren Buffett owns 10% stake in that. Why do you laugh? BYD is trying to compete. Why do you laugh?
Have you seen their car?
You don't see them at all as a competitor?
No.
Since then, a lot has changed. BYD now has almost 1 million employees, claiming the title of top electric vehicle maker in the world.
Now, what was mentioned but not really stressed, and let's just emphasize it, is who was originally providing the investment in order to kickstart this operation inside China. Well, surprisingly, we've got Americans involved. This is Berkshire Hathaway that was mentioned. Very strange website, immensely powerful company, beg your pardon. But of course, everything is in very small print. So very strange. But here's the key point, a message from Warren E. Buffett himself, the Chief Executive Officer of Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated. What's he talking about on this webpage? Well, he's talking about Geico, if I pronounce that correctly, car insurance, and Borsheim's jewelry, which he's encouraging people to buy, both the jewelry and the car insurance. But essentially what's happening here is Americans helping to destroy their own national industrial base. So, Ben, I just found this a fascinating story because, of course, China is the enemy. We delve into how they're making so much progress, and surprise, surprise, we find American individuals and money driving that progress forward. So clearly things are not quite as the mainstream media would have us believe.
Certainly not. But don't worry, Warren Buffett's set up a charity with Bill Gates, like we was describing earlier, so that will make it all okay.
I'm sure it will. Okay, now to everybody who watches UK Column, thank you very much for your support. We're very keen for more support because we'd like to continue to expand. If you want to find out what we do and get involved, go to the website and have a look at the to support our work section, and you can click to get more details. Now, we'd also like to give a reminder that the new magazine, the column, we've had lots and lots of very nice emails saying how impressed people were and how much they've enjoyed reading it. We still have copies available, so if you haven't yet got yours, do get onto the website and buy one. Not only do you get an extremely weighty and readable tome delivered to you, but of course, in buying it, you're also helping the UK Column as well. So please do on that. And of course, share your magazine. I've already passed 3 of them on to other people who saw me with the magazine at various events, were curious. And when I discussed it with them, they wanted one. So my dentist also kind enough to buy a copy. So it's up to you. If you've got a copy, help us sell some more because that is good for the UK Column. Now, the other major event coming up is our 20th anniversary, 18th to the 20th of September. This is 3 days, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, as our membership has asked us, because this gives lots of time for interaction, chatting, meeting new friends in the beautiful UK Column environment of Plymouth. Let's just have a look at our promo video.
UK Column is 20. For 20 years, we've been the antidote to mainstream propaganda. The most established online alternative news organisation in Britain. Join us as we mark this momentous occasion, celebrating everything UK Column's achieved in the beautiful location of Plymouth. We have 3 days of amazing speakers, presentations and stories, plus music, fun, friendship and prize giving. We would love you to be there. Grab your ticket at the UK Column shop and be part of this wonderful anniversary weekend.
Big thank you to Gemma and Phil for producing that excellent clip. It is going to be fantastic. Now, the important thing is 2/3 of the tickets already gone. So if you're thinking, do I, don't I, and you would really like to be there, it's going to be very, very special. We're going to enjoy seeing you. But as I say, the key thing is people wanted time to interact and socialize and relax and enjoy the event. So yes, there are talks, but there's going to be a lot of time to relax, chat and have good fun. And of course, if you're down days either side that weekend, you can enjoy the wonderful beaches and countryside around Plymouth. So 1/3 of the tickets left. Do come and join us. Now, other production from UK Column, we've got the Germ Warfare Weekly Banter tonight at 7 p.m. What does freedom even mean? Mike and Charles joining in on that will be extremely interesting. We've also got Silk and Steel tonight at 9 p.m. and that'll be on the subject of the US loss to Iran. Now China is unstoppable. And I'll just add that it's very interesting, of course, that one of the things that's now being said is that purchases of electric cars has increased due to problems in the Gulf. So it appears, having reported on that large Chinese car manufacturer as just one example, that Trump is apparently helping the enemy. So we live in a complex world. Ben, I think it's back to you on the subject of Freud's house.
Matthew Freud's house. His enormous pile up in Oxfordshire. Yes, let's just have a little look. This came out from Gold's House. We've spoken about it a lot recently. Matthew Freud is the co-founder and one of the directors of Gold's House, which is established to promote the UN Sustainable Development Goals, supposedly Sustainable Development Goals. Essentially, it's the blueprint for global tyranny. But last week, in parallel with the Skull World Forum, which is also in Oxford, Matthew Freud's house is in Oxfordshire, so these things are almost certainly linked to each other. This was the Philanthropy Reset Summit, which they describe as a unique convening at the home of Matthew Freud in Burford, Oxfordshire. And this is about aligning global philanthropy around the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals. Who could you possibly want to have there more than Bad Al Campbell? And so you talk about philanthropy and the greater good, you've got to get Al Campbell in the room. Would you just look at that room? I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? This is where the people that are deciding how the future of our entire civilization are going to run come and hang out, and this is his personal house.
Yeah, there's a similarity across all of these segments that you've covered in that people are being brought into very, very prestigious, opulent surroundings in order to engage, apparently, with initiatives which are just going to help the poor people.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. All this kind of stuff. Happy, shiny people. It's easy to be happy and shiny when you're sitting on top of a pile of cash, I suppose. And then your more grand convenings, discussions. Paul Van Zyl on the right-hand side there in the centre, he's the head of the Conduit. The Conduit is the home of impact investing in London. So this is what... And as we said earlier, without wanting to labour the point too much, impact investing, that entire paradigm was essentially designed by Jeffrey Epstein. All right, so this is what's going on. And Freud himself, just last month, was named as an inaugural recipient of the Sustainable Markets Initiative Terra Carta and Astra Carta Award from the King. So... these are people pulling strings.
Are we surprised?
In case you didn't know already.
Are we surprised? No. We'll be looking to the Green King more in the future, so stay with us on that. Well, let's move on to the subject of dual nationality and the problems that can arise out of it. And we're going to start with just a brief look at former policeman Mark Bullen, who has recently been deprived of his UK nationality. Now, we should have just before we go to the film clip on that, let me bring this up on screen. This is the comment from the Home Office. It said, deprivation of British citizenship is a vital tool used to protect the UK from some of the most dangerous people, including those involved in terrorism, hostile state activity, or serious organised crime. Now, remember, as I say that to the audience, that you get a sense in this country that if you dare challenge the UK government at any level, you are going to be branded with that sort of label. But let's have a look at this clip and see what Mark Bullen had to say for himself. Now, he's married to a Russian lady and is now living in Russia, but nevertheless, he had some very important things to say.
And I get an email from Department 53, I think that's, open it, and it says, we're revoking your British citizenship, please see the attached.
Mark Bullen is a former British police officer who's been stripped of his UK citizenship because of links to Russia.
It just seemed unreal. I thought this must be a joke. This can't be happening.
His case is the first of its kind, and I've just been speaking to him here in St. Petersburg in an exclusive interview.
Absolutely, it's unfair. I didn't think Britain, I didn't think we had arbitrary punishments now. I didn't think I could be punished for something that I don't know what I've done. There is no evidence against me. At least I've not been told there's any. It's beyond unfair.
The 45-year-old worked at Hertfordshire Constabulary for 11 years, during which time he organised regular visits and exchanges with Russian police officers. He left the force and moved here in 2014, and he now works at the Zenit St. Petersburg Football Club, which is owned by the sanctioned Russian energy giant Gazprom.
This is the Gazprom Arena, and this is the biggest game in Russian football.
He was told he'd have his British passport revoked in an email from the Home Office at the end of last year, and here is a copy of that email. In it, the Home Secretary says she's made this decision on the grounds that to do so is conducive to the public good, but she offers no other explanation.
Well, I wonder why I felt good at the weekend, presumably because he's lost his UK citizenship. But here's the letter. We'll bring it up on screen so that people can have a look at it later if they wish. But it's pretty short and sharp, signed by the Secretary of the State. The message is pretty clear. Anything to do with British Russian is bad. But of course, we need to remind the audience that anything to do with British Israeli is good. And let's just move through very quickly. Reports. This is Declassified UK. Some of this has been mentioned by the UK column before. But here's the key statistic. 1,686 British Israelis and a further 383 people with British Israeli and another nationality served in the IDF amid the annihilation of Gaza. So that was the words in the report, not my own words. We've also got this report here. UK military academy trained Israeli officers during Gaza genocide. And the significance of the individual highlighted is it's an Israeli officer who was identified by doing a search on his face and facial features on the internet. But of course, this is showing dual nationality people embedded within the heart of the UK government. And as UK column has reported on many occasions, the British public not being told what's happening at all. Excuse me. So this is Declassified UK Psychological Warfare Unit collaborated with the Israeli army. Now, although this is going back to 2024, it's still very important. British Army's 77 Brigade had secret exchanges with the IDF, according to leaked files. And the UK public completely in the dark about what was taking place. We've got more here from Wikispooks with details about special projects. This one codenamed Hezuk, H-E-Z-U-K, designed to counter the destabilizing regional activity of Iran and Hezbollah. And clearly we know from situation in the Gulf at the moment, everything is peaceful and calm as a result of this interaction with the IDF. But more details of the project are available on that particular page. And here is a time chart. It's almost like a project management chart detailing some of the things that were discussed and showing when it was. So the UK public have been completely kept in the dark about joint military and defence plans with Israel. We're completely in the dark about dual nationality British Israeli people embedded in UK government and indeed the Ministry of Defence and the defence industry. And we need to ask ourselves whether this arrangement was actually used in order to plan the attack on Iran, which would mean that Keir Starmer's government in particular was fully involved in the attack and there was nothing defensive about it. But a lot of questions to be asked there, Ben.
Certainly are, yes.
Palantir, I would think, is the...
Yes, where to next? Yeah, so we're talking about relations. what could potentially be described as inappropriate relationships with foreign countries. I think it's just worth noting on the back of the report I did last week about Palantir and their extraordinary mission statement, that they've now just inked a revised deal with Ukraine, which is focused on military support, but then also with the Ministry of the Economy in the demining of 130,000 square kilometres of land, and essentially the rebuilding of the entire economic system. And this is described by the Blair Institute as the most significant geopolitical event since the end of the Second World War. Palantir and Louis Mosley, you could just see they're absolutely in the mix for this. And again, it does beg the question how we can allow organisations like this with these kinds of connections to operate inside sensitive areas of British government, whether it's the NHS or anywhere else.
With no checks or balances.
Well, yes, it appears so.
Meanwhile, our ancient seats of learning are up for sale.
Oh, they certainly are, absolutely, yes. So we talked a little bit about Oxford earlier on in the show, but Cambridge is absolutely in the mix for this as well. Both institutions are hubs of the global network, currently reshaping politics, economic activity, culture, absolutely everywhere around the world, but most particularly here in the UK. This relates to the announcement of this new organisation. So this is the Rokos School of Government, founded from a record-breaking donation, which will enable the new school to prepare tomorrow's leaders to tackle the world's biggest problems. Let's have a little listen to what it's all about.
I am delighted to announce that the University of Cambridge is planning to establish a new school, the Rokos School of Government, aimed at equipping the world's leaders with the ability to tackle the greatest challenges facing us today. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Chris Rokos for entrusting us with his vision, one which we share and are excited for the opportunity to realize.
The education that I had transformed my life. And what I'm looking to do is to reciprocate that gift. But more than this, I'm keen that our future global leaders be equipped with the knowledge and the tools to govern successfully. The world around us is changing fast, and the way our leaders operate needs to change with it. Tomorrow's leaders need to be armed with the political skills and the understanding of policy frameworks which meet the demands of the 21st century. That's what's behind setting up this School of Government here at Cambridge. The School of Government is rooted in Britain. Its purpose is global.
It's global, Ben.
Absolutely, yes. So this is Chris Rokos, hedge fund. I don't know if he's quite a billionaire, but he's certainly been extremely successful. He got an academic scholarship to Eton, then helped set up one of the most successful hedge funds of the 90s and the early 2000s before going out on his own. Made a lot of money, decided to give Cambridge University possibly one of the largest single endowments that's ever been given to a British university. It's about £190 million. And all of this, as he's just described to you, is going to be directed towards global governance issues. And this will run in parallel, not formally, because this hasn't been announced, but there's already a Blavatnik School of Governance operating out of Oxford University, delivering similar kind of programs, right? Very much focused on international political leadership. Just now have a similar thing happening in Cambridge. And it does rather beg the question whether our universities are being set up to deliver value back to the British people, or if they're there to serve an international political structure.
Increasingly the latter, in my opinion, Ben. Increasingly the latter. They are tools now of whoever's going to pour in the money in order to decide what the university is going to teach and why it's going to teach that. A lot more to discuss on that. Many people say, what is the good news? Because there is so much bad news occurring not only in the UK but in the world. We think one of the good things starting to happen is more and more people are becoming active and getting out challenging, whether it's challenging local councils through some of the smaller political parties. This is having an effect, because one of the things we've constantly said is the globalist policies can only work if they can enact those policies down to the lowest level, the man and woman they're working with our families, man and the woman, in the local community environment, they have to do the bidding of the globalists, or the global plans don't work. So anything and everything people do has an effect. Now, this is a particularly good story for me because I've followed it over quite some months, but it's a man called David Skinner. He's a devout Christian. He's been challenging abortion. And we're going to, first of all, report here on a court case. This was actually an appeal that took place at the end of last week. And to his astonishment, to David Skinner's astonishment, he won his appeal. Now, I was able to have a telephone call with him, so the quality of the call is a little bit poor in places, but you can easily understand what he has to say. So let's hear David Skinner say in his own words what he did, what his crime was, and what the outcome of this appeal hearing was. For the UK column audience, I'm here with David Skinner, and David has just come out of a court hearing, an appeal. David, what was the circumstance? Why were you in court, and what was the result of the appeal?
Right. Well, yes, the circumstance was that in 2023, I had reported to the police mass murder taking place in the local abortion clinic. And in order to convince the police, in other words, I could have just phoned them up and they'd have taken me as a crank. So I thought the best thing to do was to send some photographs. And it was that which caused offence to a police inspector, a woman. And consequently, I was hauled into court for breaking or breaching Section 127 of the Electronic Communications Act 2003, and also I think it was Section something or other of the Malicious Communications Act 1998, for which I understand that 12,000 people have been in court. Man, I think a couple of ladies. What was her name? The councillor's wife. She went into prison for tweeting something which caused somebody offence. So you don't have to know who it is. It's just the fact that offence has been caused, and you can So that's what I was caught on, and this has been going on now for a couple of years. Last year, on the 1st of May, in a total kangaroo court in Poole Magistrates, I was found guilty. The trial lasted barely an hour and a half. I had a top human rights lawyer, came all the way, who flew from Slovakia, from Bratislava. He's the top man. He goes to the European Court of Human Rights. The judge completely trashed him, treated with him contempt. Not only that, the inspector who had brought the complaint, there were two ladies actually. The other one was simply working the office of the police commissioner, and she opened up an email which was not addressed to her. It was addressed personally to David Siddick, the police commissioner, because he was the other one that I had written to. She opened it, shock horror, and she also then claimed. But what was extraordinary at the court was that she was allowed to hide behind a screen because she was frightened of me. So I was actually treated like a terrorist. It really was a pantomime court. So, we are getting this now. Christians who, we had the famous case of Bernard Randall, the chaplain to Trent Christian College in Nottingham, who, because he'd simply said to the children, you have to make up your mind about LGBT, he was sacked from his job, and by the Bishop of Derby, Libby somebody or other, So he was treated as a terrorist. So I mean, this is I think Christians are the persecution against Christians already started.
No, David, very astute comments, and thank you for giving us the detail about what the case was about. What was the result of the appeal?
Well, the result was we had a High Court judge, which is highly unusual, came in. It was yesterday. It was an all-day hearing. I had to stand in the dock for 2 hours answering questions, and I don't know. God gave me the answers. But what he did have in front of him was the offending article, which he read, and he opened up all the links. He looked at all the evidence that I'd given, and so today, I was actually still in the mode of thinking that I was going to be guilty and that the appeal was going to reject it. So even though I was actually hearing words that said that I'd been acquitted, I didn't understand it. I didn't believe it.
He didn't believe it in court, but of course it was absolutely true. And amazing work by David Skinner, challenging some truly horrible things. And many more people need to do it. Now, I just say that the Christian group that supported him were very big on prayers. And one of the big prayers was around Psalm 35. Pleading a cause with the Lord in the strife against people who are essentially doing wrong. And let's remember that, of course, the UK government has been banning prayer, presumably because it's frightened of prayer, do you think? It's an interesting discussion, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we must end on another court case. Is it a happy one? Well, we don't know yet. What have you got?
It's certainly an entertaining one. Just a quick reminder that these three beautiful boys, these nubile young gentlemen, are going to be on trial today, starting today at the Old Bailey, charged with arson attacks on properties linked to the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Goodness knows how they got the address of his properties. I just can't begin to imagine. But anyway, these three guys have all pled not guilty to charges, including conspiracy to commit arson. The trial is ongoing this week, and we'll keep you up to date with the results as they come out.
If the public is allowed to know, of course.
Well, we'll see.
We will see. Ben, thank you very much for that. A huge thank you to our audience, wherever you are in the world. It's great to have you. And a huge, huge thank you to everybody that's sent us emails recently, thanking us for the magazine, and also thanking us for the work the UK column has done over the last 20 years. It's really lovely to get those comments in. So thank you very much to the people who've sent them. We must end there. We will be back for UK Column Extra in a few moments for our members. If you're not yet a member of the UK Column, please join and give us the wherewithal to grow further in 2026 and beyond. But UK Column News will be back on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. See you then. Bye-bye.